Hello everyone, welcome to this, or in lieu of this week's lecture, this video that I'm recording to talk about rules in Abe's Exodus and Spelunky. This should complement both the readings for this week, The Heresy of Zone Defense and Skullduggery in EVE Online, and also the slides that I've uploaded to PowerPoint. For PowerPoint slides I've uploaded to Blackboard for you to read through, which includes some quotes from different game scholars and developers, as well as some things to think about in terms of rules and game design. And that's this week's theme, is rules, and how rules are fundamental to game design, and how to think through rules, to think through the aesthetics of a game. So understanding what a game is doing through its rules, be that a video game or a non-digital game. The slides I've provided you kind of talk about games more broadly. They talk about sport and other things like that. In this video I'm going to talk primarily about video games. In particular I want to talk about two specific video games. Abe's Exodus, which is on the screen at the moment and was a late 90s game for the PlayStation 1. Say hello, Abe. Hi. As well as Spelunky for the PlayStation 3, which is also on PC and Xbox 360, which is an independent game by Derek Yu's studio called Mossmouth. These are two games that are both side-scrolling platformers, so a side-on kind of 2D playing plane, but they're very different games. They kind of fall at the different ends of the spectrum of progression and emergent gameplay, where a progression game, as you would have seen in the slides, is more kind of a series of challenges, one after the other, with kind of previously understood rules, or maybe even changing rules. An emergent game, a game at the emergent end of the spectrum, kind of has various rules that are kind of reshuffled each time and allow a slightly different experience every time. So I'll get to that talking about Spelunky later, but first let's talk about Abe's Exodus here as a kind of contrast to that. It's in a very traditional mold. There's a start of a video game, you go to the end of a video game, and then you finish. And it's the same every time you play it. It's the second in the series. Abe's Odyssey, when it came out, was very interesting because you had an unlimited number of lives. It was actually advertised on the front cover as something that was weird about it, that you didn't just get 3 lives and then it was game over. It was really kind of one of the first kind of popular games to do that. And now, of course, it is very rare to find a game that gives you a limited number of lives. So it was much more about solving a puzzle, and death was kind of secondary, or like passing the challenge with your kind of fancy finger skills was kind of secondary to, can you do this challenge that is before you. So in the opening levels of this game, which isn't what's on the screen at the moment, you learn what you can do with Abe. So he's a very kind of passive character compared to a lot of the heroes of the time, and even now. He doesn't have many aggressive moves. He can no, he can't do that. He can walk back and forward. It's very slow, kind of dorky kind of walk. You can run by holding down R1. It takes you a while to turn around then. You don't have as much freedom over, you're not as much specific movement. You're a bit sloppier if you're running, so you get more control if you're walking. You can duck and then roll, which allows you to move as fast as when you're running, but without sliding. You can run and then press X to roll straight away, which sometimes is helpful. You can jump on the spot, but whoops, not if you're standing in front of. Go away. Sorry. If I stand here, you can. No, that door's closed. Okay, there's nowhere currently I can stand still and jump. Let's do it here. So you can jump. You can jump forward, which allows you to kind of cover, if you cut the, if you try to imagine a grid, you're kind of jumping 3 squares or something, and lots of objects will take one of those squares up. So this square has that interface, then you have a square with a gap here, then a square for well. So steps rather than squares, I guess. And you can kind of figure out how far you jump. And then he can talk, so you can talk to people.
Follow me. Look. Stop it. Oh, yeah.
And you kind of use those commands. So let's go in the door and look at some of the levels. So you know these rules from playing kind of up to this point, doing the early parts, or more likely than not because it was the 90s, from reading the instruction manual, which was something that used to be assumed you would do beforehand, like you would if a non-digital game. You would read the instruction manual first. So here you have a mine, and you know if you touch a mine you blow up, and you know if you fall down that chasm you will probably fall to your death. These are things you've already learnt. So you press jump and you go there, and then you have to roll. Here you kind of look at it, and it's important to note that the camera doesn't follow Abe everywhere. It's kind of situated on certain screens, which is interesting. It's not focusing on Abe and what he can do like Spelunky does, which we will see in a minute, or like Super Mario does. The focus is on the level and the puzzle in that spatial environment. So here you see a pulley on the left. You need to get to that because you know that will allow you to go down. You see a mine circling this platform you have to get on. So you jump, and then you get up, and then you get down. Kind of sounded like a Cypress Hill song. So you got to figure out how to do this, and then you got to, whoops. So there, a jump wasn't far enough. So instead, clearly, what I had to do was a running jump. So let's try that again. And now when I try it again, it's going to be the exact same challenge. In Spelunky, if you die, it's not necessarily the same. There'll be a different combination of mines and platforms and whatnot. So that's kind of a key difference between these games. I'm freaking out. And you know, I know what pulley systems do because I've learned that rule. So each screen is its own kind of puzzle. So here, if I wanted to, I could have just jumped down there and it wouldn't be far enough to fall. But I need to pull that lever, and there's currently nowhere to stand next to it. Therefore, I need to pull this one down to bring this one up. So here is a really good example of just a puzzle in a single screen. And all the elements are already there. So we see the Mudokan slave over on that side, which I clearly have to save by bringing him back over here. You got to get them to a bird portal. So there's the bird portal I have to get him to, or her. I can't currently tell him to follow me because he's depressed.
Hi, follow me. No.
So he won't follow me until I stand next to him and say sorry. Also, he can't jump, so he would just fall to his death. We can see a switch up in the top left corner, and we can see these kind of paddle things in each gap. You might not be able to see them clearly yet, but you will soon. So you can kind of safely assume that switch will create a walkway for him. Let's save it before I continue so we don't have to do everything again. So I know to get past these mines. That's actually an interesting thing to note, a small thing. This game's kind of known for its humor at the time. There's a lot of toilet humor. You fart, you have to possess your farts at times. So here is a jump I have to do. You could jump from here, but most people move to the end and jump, but then I'm going to hit the wall. So there's this kind of dorky slapstick humor to it as well. Where it kind of deliberately lets you whack yourself a lot. So there we go, there those come up. And now I have to try to get this guy across these mines, which will be kind of like playing Lemmings.
Hi.
Well, first I have to apologize to him.
Hi. Okay.
Now he's happy,
Follow me. Okay.
so I got to get him past each
Follow
mine.
me. Okay.
Keep going, dude. Oh, whoops. So the tricky part with them is often getting them to actually do what you want them to do, which isn't very easy. But you get the gist of that puzzle, so I won't bother doing that again. So let's keep going down. Let's pretend I saved him. And each of these screens you'll look at and you're trying to figure out what do I do in this screen. Here you can see a vertical drop, which is probably wrong. Sometimes there's secrets down them, but you can usually expect to die. But there's a walkway off the left, and that's, you know, it's almost not even a puzzle, but you look at the screen, you interpret what's there based on the rules. You know that Abe can walk, he can fall too far and die, and you assume that's where you go. Whereas a screen like this gives you a much different picture, and it's still one puzzle, so I can see where I can't go. I need this guy to follow me, but he's angry.
Follow me. No.
I can see the mines that I have to, you know, deactivate before I can get past. I can see this gap that I need to jump across, but I know a little gap jump won't be big enough, so I'm going to have to do a running jump, and I can kind of interpret that from what I can see. And that was a failed running jump. So as I mentioned, the controls get much sloppier when you're running. That's a criticism you could make of this game. Whereas these days, a game that's much more puzzle orientated, where you're trying to figure out what to do in a level, it would arguably be so that once you figured out what you do, nothing would prevent you from doing it. It's interesting. Whereas in this game, you're still kind of twitchy gameplay. So even when you know what to do, it can still be hard to do it.
Hi. Hi. Sorry. Okay, follow me. Okay.
So now I can try to save him. Right, so like, you have twitchy games which are about your dexterity, skill, like what you're doing with your hands. This game, based in the 90s, or made in the 90s, right, kind of has this annoying kind of, it doesn't know which one of those it wants to be sometimes. And you'll see that a lot with old games. They feel like they have to be hard just for the sake of being hard. Though the quick save makes it much easier than the first game, because it's not super unforgiving. And then of course there are levels that don't have any puzzles, but they kind of let you move through the environment. That's kind of nice. Another interesting thing here, unrelated to rules, is these kind of animations that I think will happen here. So this is back when full motion video was an exciting thing because of CDs, but games are still 2D. So what they would do is take that full motion video kind of footage off a computer and use kind of screenshots for these pre-rendered backgrounds like that. But then you can do these amazing kind of spatial things like that, where the screenshot turns into a movie, but you don't really notice. So it gives you this amazing sense of depth in a 2D game. And you see lots of Japanese role-playing games by Squaresoft, like Final Fantasy VII, do that as well. And it's a really fascinating technique of a very particular time. And that's unrelated, but that's something that I think is interesting. So now we're going to move to Spelunky, but in closing about Abe's Odyssey, it's just interesting. I'm going to be honest here, this video is suddenly going to make a weird cut because this is the second time I've recorded Abe's Exodus because it deleted on me the first time. So I'm going to say a sentence, and that's hopefully just going to glide smoothly into the second one, and we can all pretend this never happened. So essentially with this kind of game, with a progression game, there's just one